Welcome back to Akhara Study. We're stepping into a quiet village right at the western end, where a small hut sits in the shadow of a large bokal tree. A troop of monkeys lives in its branches, keeping the local residents company. This is the setting for a classic short story by Manoj. He introduces us to a protagonist named Bhola Grandpa. Traditional heroes often rely on sharp wits and incredible bravery. Bhola Grandpa relies on profound simplicity and absolute, total forgetfulness. Look at this vintage photograph of a typical Bengal village street. In an environment like this, survival usually demands constant alertness to your surroundings, the weather, and local wildlife. Memory is a tool that keeps you alive. Bhola Grandpa lacks that tool entirely. We are going to look at 3 escalating incidents from Das's story that show how this extreme forgetfulness actually works as a humorous shield against the anxieties of the real world. The first incident establishes exactly how his mind works. It happens on a long, foggy walk home from a local festival at night. Visibility is low, and the journey is tiring. Bhola Grandpa is holding on tight to his grandson's 2 fingers, but somewhere along the dark road, those fingers slip out of his grip. He continues walking, his hand still clamped in the exact same position, completely unaware that the boy is gone. It isn't until someone in the group casually asks what he is gripping that he looks down. Realizing his hands are empty, he lets out a sudden, loud wail. The entire party halts their journey in a panic, and a search team immediately heads back into the fog. Fortunately, it doesn't take long for 2 sharp-eyed villagers to track the boy down. He is entirely safe, having found himself a highly unusual place to wait out the cold. You can see exactly where they found him in this textbook illustration. The grandson had simply taken cozy shelter directly under a cow's belly. This sets a clear baseline for Bhola Grandpa's character. His memory lapses start as harmless, physical mistakes. He forgets what his hand is holding, resulting in a brief moment of village comedy rather than actual tragedy. The second incident pushes this trait further. His forgetfulness shifts from dropping a hand to completely losing the boundary between his dreams and his waking life. On a rainy afternoon, Bhola Grandpa makes a wild claim to his friends. He insists he just saw a gang of pirates actively burying a large box of treasure down on the seashore. Greed takes over immediately. A frantic treasure hunt begins. The village men dig for hours, digging straight through the evening, going past midnight and into the light of a howling moon. The text mentions they are digging under the sand dunes. Looking at this photograph of actual dunes fathom water gives you a clear definition. Sand dunes are simply small hills of sand formed naturally by the wind over time. Deep into the night, after hours of moving that sand, Bhola Grandpa finally makes a confession. There is no treasure. The pirates were entirely a product of a midday nap dream that he had forgotten to separate from reality. His condition has escalated. His mind is so uncluttered that a passing dream carries the exact same weight as a factual event, completely dictating the actions of his friends for an entire night. The final adventure brings us to the Sunderbans. Looking at this dense mangrove forest, you can understand why people took extreme care here. Royal Bengal Tigers roamed these jungles freely. Travel after sundown was strictly done in groups. Returning alone from the weekly market one evening, Bhola Grandpa hears a growl. He turns around to find the bright gaze of this animal, a Royal Bengal Tiger, staring at him from just 5 yards away. His survival instinct kicks in for exactly 1 moment. He scrambles up a nearby banyan tree. The hungry tiger circles the trunk 100 times before settling down under a bush, pinning him there for the entire night. The textbook illustration perfectly captures this tense standoff, with Bhola Grandpa trapped in the branches and the apex predator waiting patiently on the ground below. But when dawn breaks, the absurdity of his mind takes over again. Bhola Grandpa simply climbs down from the tree and walks right past the tiger, which is currently stretching its limbs and yawning. He entirely forgets the animal is even there. He walks over to a nearby mound to ask another man for some water. The text describes this man as bewildered, which means he is highly confused. He cannot understand how someone simply walked past a hungry beast without being attacked. Bhola Grandpa's calm as dawn stems from a total lapse in survival instinct. a forgetfulness so absolute that it ironically becomes his greatest protection. It is only when the man points out the tiger that he remembers it, loses his senses in fear, and runs home. Half a century passes after that close call. Bhola Grandpa leaves the village forever, passing away peacefully in his bed at the age of 95. His 80-year-old wife delivers the ultimate punchline to his life story. She sighs and laments that the old man must have simply forgotten to breathe. Manoj Das leaves us with a quiet message here. By constantly forgetting the dangers, the greed, and the panic around him, Bhola Grandpa managed to live a remarkably long and simple life, completely unburdened by the stress of the real world. For your Akhara Study review, remember this diagram tracking the story's escalation. It starts with a physical mistake, losing his grandson. It escalates to a reality blur with the pirate dream, and peaks with a total survival lapse during the tiger encounter. Retain your vocabulary, connect sand dunes to the pirate hunt, and remember the man on the mound was bewildered by his escape. Understanding this narrative progression and these specific vocabulary definitions provides the grounding needed for your assessment on Tales of Bhola Grandpa.